First and foremost, I would like to give my condolences to the lady that got killed by ICE in Minnesota. That's not what this video is about. ICE has a patented way of doing things to aggravate and to incite, and they can make almost anything look legal as long as they put themselves in harm's way. And they're doing that on purpose. It's going to take judges to say, you made a conscious decision to kill instead of getting out of the way. Because he had no fear of dying, or else any sensible person with the fear of a car hitting you would jump out of the way. But he came towards the car. She was fully turned. He knew where she was going. He knew she was trying to get away. So he put himself in harm's way. And he could have just sidestepped it. But he chose to kill. That's all I'm going to say about that. So is Donald Trump becoming Hitler? Is he demented in the mind? But if he is demented, then so is the cabinet. Everyone is doing illegal things on a regular basis. In the beginning, I said this. Once Donald Trump became president, you know he was going to turn into a dictator. Project 2025 set that up initially. I said, when a dictator comes into its superpowers, they take everything. I think the video got about, I don't know how many views. I reposted it maybe 2 weeks ago because everything that I predicted would happen according to Project 2025 happened. There's only a few things left, and that is to get rid of Congress and to start arresting or killing judges. Did you hear me? I hope so.
It appears that the judge that was presiding over Benjamin Netanyahu's case in Israel is now dead.
That is my prediction of what's to come. We already talked about ICE was going to be killing people and arresting citizens and arresting people that weren't hardened criminals and locking them up because it is a slave trade. Donald Trump has been very, very angry that Kristi Noem has not acquired all the prisons that he needs to fulfill in order to have free labor. You can go to my YouTube channel. I'm just saying YouTube and check them out. So what is coming in the future? We know that he's going to take Greenland. We know that he's going to take Brazil. He's also forwarding the actions of Israel to build a base in Somaliland. That way they can begin to take prisoners in Africa. Yeah, I know nobody's talked about that. So on January 3rd, we arrested Maduro. But you didn't hear about this.
Burkina Faso reports foiled coup attempt linked to a former leader. Yeah, it's a big one. So this is Ibrahim Traore. And he basically, had this mindset that I don't want the West in Burkina Faso anymore. Basically told France, told Macron, get out of here. You're not going to take our resources anymore. And we're going to build on our own. And the West doesn't like that so much. They also don't like this alliance that he has with Mali. And what's the other one we have here? The AES alliance. They also don't like that. They don't like the fact that he has been shaking hands with Vladimir Putin, that he's willing to work with Russia. You guys know how this goes.
Fuck, nigga, I stole that shit. Stole that shit. That's what I do, nigga.
China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when
Well,
it
in
comes
terms
to the
of
oil
China
and
and Russia, Russia, when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them.
Wait, what? We're going to sell the oil to Russia and China?
Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. So we sanctioned everybody. And we say it's all illegal, that they're selling to our adversaries. But yet, we're going to take over the trade. And we're going to sell it to China and Russia. I know Maduro is going to use this as a defense. However, what I'm doing illegal by selling to China and Russia because of your sanctions, and you're going to do the same damn thing.
Purpose of the operation was to capture Maduro and bring him to justice. Why does the United States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
And that is by Donald Trump. It looks like in the last couple of days, one of the tankers on the Shadow Fleet was about to be stormed by the United States. It was sailing nearby Venezuela. And at the very last second, just before the boat was impounded, it raised a Russian flag. And the US saw that flag and decided to let it go. Trump.
Now, today, they decided to seize the tanker, finally, after about 3 weeks. And this tanker has been changing flags, changing statementships, and all of the above. Yes, it is a shadow fleet. Russia is now saying it's theirs. We'll see how that turns out. But we know how we do. We're only in this situation because we think Russia's down, because they've been fighting this war with Ukraine. Didn't we do the same thing during the Hitler run? We waited to the last minute to jump in when everybody was out of ammo and everything. It was almost to the end. But y'all forgot about a few things about these adversaries in the United States.
Basically saying they didn't want to escalate diplomatic tensions. So the Shadow Fleet is basically on its knees, Russia's war machine, unless America can swoop in at the last second and save it. Which is a bit like in 1945, Hitler's on his knees, Berlin is being stormed, and America comes in at the very last second, pulls Hitler out of his bunker, brushes off his jacket and says, gives him a gun and says, carry on, you can keep.
Yeah, we did that for real. We knew he was at the end. Congress has lost all power, in case you ain't witnessed it. Epstein files ain't released. We just doing wars like crazy. We got ICE in the streets, violating everybody's civil rights, going against Supreme Court judges, and everything is in the wide open for Trump right now. He believes that he is untouchable. Because when he makes statements like this about Greenland, in spite of NATO, in spite of another sovereign country.
Stephen Miller said for you.
The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
He act like Greenland just popped up one day and became its own country. Listen to the history.
What's your response to that, Anders?
My response is that Denmark landed on Greenland before anyone ever thought about making the United States of America. So by that logic, the United States of America should go back to be a colony of the United Kingdom. But I don't see that as a very realistic outcome. And I think again and again, we are seeing this administration talking about Greenland with no knowledge about the history of the place, with no knowledge about the fact on the ground. When Denmark sold what is today the U.S. Virgin Islands, the United States signed a treaty with Denmark 100 years ago that the United States of America accepted Danish full control over the territory of Greenland. So if the United States administration is in doubt who gave us that territory, they can just go back and look into their own records and there see that it is among all the other countries in the world, the United States have said that Greenland belonged to the territory of Greenland belonged to the Kingdom of Denmark.
President Trump says.
So, mark my words, what I just said. Brazil, Canada, Greenland. Trump wants it all. We know that because he has told the interim president of Venezuela that she got to get rid of all dealings with China and Russia. Without China and Russia, Trump can just take over all of Brazil. We'll see how BRICS handles this. But there are more pressing things that we need to be worried about.
And I want you to stop doom scrolling. Just really pay attention for a second. He says the United States government could reimburse U.S. oil companies that rebuild Venezuelan infrastructure. The president did not say how much money that could cost, but I'm going to tell you, it's a lot. He believes that the oil industry could get operations, quote, up and running in fewer than 18 months. Oil experts would tell you a decade. So I just want to level set for a moment about exactly what's happening here. Nicolas Maduro is obviously no friend to the United States. But by sending our troops to Venezuela to overthrow him, Trump may have violated international law, sidestepping Congress, and threatened the world order. And while Maduro is locked up here in New York, his regime is still largely in place, and they will be as long as their oil reserves are open to U.S. companies. We do not know whether U.S. oil companies actually want to invest big in Venezuela again.
Actually, that question was posed even before Maduro was ousted. A lot of the companies were already being approached by the White House. Hey, if we go get him, y'all gonna invest in, in Venezuela again?
Companies had a fascinating response to President Donald Trump, who asked executives in said oil companies if they have any interest in returning to Venezuela once Nicolas Maduro is ousted in a regime change war. And so far, the answer is a hard no.
That was the answer. Now, things may have changed with Maduro absolutely being out of power now. Y'all do know we did this before with Chavez, right? We went and kidnapped him, brought him over here. The whole country went berserk. They couldn't install a new regime, and we had to bring him back. Y'all remember that? Probably not. Probably not. America do get amnesia from time to time.
We're going to run everything. We're going to run it, fix it.
On top of that, the investment of time and money it would take to build up Venezuela's infrastructure is not something most oil companies are interested in. And it's not about making Venezuela pay back U.S. oil companies for some sort of wrongdoing, as Trump has repeatedly claimed, saying that we'll start producing oil so that oil companies will get the money back that was stolen from them. That's a complete fabrication of history.
The oil companies are going to go in, they're going to spend money, we're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago.
I'm going to tell you this. Another prediction. Your tax dollars is going to pay for that. That infrastructure crap he talking about, he going to try it. But remember, Russia and China all have put over $100 billion into this so-called infrastructure. Now that it's halfway done, nobody's talking about that. Trump wants to pick it up. Let me tell you something else. Another reason we're robbing Venezuela is that they have over twice as much Bitcoin in the government than the United States. Now, they did that because they had to get around the sanctions. So a lot of money was going through Bitcoin. So the incredible amount of Bitcoin the government has there, watch Trump try and get a hold of that. Mark my words. Back to the lecture at hand. We are talking about why Trump is lying to you, saying that they took our company's oil, their own oil. Here's what actually happened with that.
Here's what really happened in a condensed version. Tons of foreign oil companies came into Venezuela in the early 20th century by invitation of the dictator Juan Vicente Gomez. In 1976, Venezuela decided to nationalize its oil industry by buying out foreign firms, a relatively uncontroversial move in which the Venezuelan government paid those foreign oil companies. This became an issue in 1998 when Hugo Chavez took a more confrontational approach to renegotiate contracts, which led to ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips pulling out of Venezuela and eventually suing the country for their lost investments. Lawsuits that the oil companies won, meaning they were compensated by court order for any loss incurred as a result of their picking up and leaving Venezuela. There is no money for those companies to get reimbursed for. The reimbursement.
This is a now that you know that Trump is systematically breaking all of his enemies inside the United States and out. All of these moves are to keep him in power. That's why we got to have chaos in the streets. ICE is not going to let up. He has to have a reason to stall out the next election. He has to have a reason to stall out him losing the House, which technically there is no House, there is no Congress, and there is no Supreme Court because he's not listening to any of them. But when he partners with Israel to make these false flags like the, child care fraud claims that everybody is piggybacking on, all of a sudden there's child care fraud in 5 Democratic states. It's the same story from 2020. This has been regurgitated by a paid podcaster that Israel has been paying to put these false flags out there. So Trump now says he's going to withhold $10 billion, take food out of the mouths of babies again because of a false flag. There's always going to be a little bit of fraud and corruption in almost every business. But to blatantly use this as an excuse to fund your other illegal actions is crazy.
ABC Learning Center in Minneapolis.
They have to learn ABC and numbers.
Director Ahmed Hassan gave WCCO a tour after finding his daycare in the national spotlight.
All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center.
In a now viral video, right-wing YouTuber Nick Shirley claims nearly a dozen daycare centers in Minnesota are taking public funds but not providing a service. He says ABC Learning Center is one of them, knocking on the door in mid-December.
I remember this guy comes to the door and he's got masked people with him. They got masks. They look like ICE. He did that on purpose. Now the people, as you can see, that's a busy street. They go around to the back to bring the kids in. They were in there. They just wouldn't open the door. He said it was an illegal operation, that there's no kids there.
I would like to check a child in the daycare.
Hassan says his employee didn't respond because Shirley was in a group of about
I would like to check a child into J-Care. That's what he said, with no kid with him.
8 people, and his staff were concerned about recent ICE activity.
Is this daycare committing fraud?
No, we're not committing fraud.
Hassan showed us security footage from the same day Shirley was here. According to the timestamps in the videos, this woman takes a young child into the center at around 9 a.m. that day, about 3 hours before Shirley arrives at the door closer to the street. Within the hour after Shirley leaves, a woman arrives at the other door with a stroller. A larger family heads inside a few hours later.
By now, you've probably seen that viral video alleging rampant daycare fraud at Minnesota facilities. And hopefully by now, you've seen some of our reporting this week where the state says that previous inspections of these facilities found no indications of fraud. However, they are doing new unannounced visits. We're waiting for the results of those.
Pushing back, posting, we've spent years cracking down on fraudsters. Adding the president is politicizing the issue to defund programs that help Minnesotans.
That's what I was trying to explain to y'all. This same thing happened in 2020, and they investigated it. They did it all over the nation, basically. They are just regurgitating old fraud claims. It never goes away. Anything they can do to withhold money to put it towards another Trump agenda, and it's breaking the Democratic states. Only in Democratic states is this going on. What's happening here? They're just trying to break the Democratic cities.
The Justice Department investigation into fraud in Minnesota dates back years, beginning in the Biden administration. But this video posted by right-wing YouTuber Nick Shirley recently went viral, sparking renewed interest in the issue.
Donald Trump has declared war on Colorado. That tonight from Colorado Senator Michael Bennet after the Trump administration announced it is freezing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding for critical social services here in Colorado. Good to have you with us tonight. I'm Shannon Ogden. Now, Colorado is one of 5 Democratic-led states on the receiving end of this. In all, billions of dollars in child care and family assistance funds will be withheld.
5 states. You heard them. All Democratic states.
Washington gets in total over $400 million, and in Idaho, around $131 million a year in federal funding for child care and early childhood development. And that money goes toward things like Head Start and to lower the cost of child care for low-income families.
Now, I believe that money is going to go towards war. I believe it's going to go towards building more prisons. Because not only are we going to be locking up our own citizens, but we're going to be locking up people from abroad. Maybe in Greenland, all over Brazil. I promise it's going to happen. By the time the 3rd year comes, mark my words.
Cost of child care for low-income families.
It's a great manufacturing nation, and we were doing that.
This is basically April, when the president rolled out his Liberation Day tariffs that were designed to boost manufacturing jobs. And what you can see is it's really been down ever since then. In fact, manufacturing employment in the United States is now at a 3.5-year low.
So, like I said, everything that he's promised he would do, bring back manufacturing, get rid of the deficit. Instead, he's added $2 more trillion to it in just 1 year. Biden added $1 trillion over 4 years. We've done 2 in just 1 year. It was at 38 trillion. We have 40 now. Make it make sense.
An estimated 7.7 million people fled. That's 20% of Venezuela's population. About 500,000 landed in the U.S. Trump has repeatedly played up unfounded scare stories about these Venezuelan migrants.
They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States.
Now, I want you to think about what they're saying, him and the guy standing behind him, Marco Rubio, said, "Oh man, we're doing this for the Venezuelan people. You know, we just want to make sure that all the money go back to the people." These people, the drug dealers that you said, the criminals, the rapists, y'all doing it for them? These people? Y'all sending them back, right? Spoiler. No, they're not sending them back. They're going to be slaves in ICE detention centers. Notice how you haven't been seeing, oh yeah, 1,000 left out of the country today. Another 500 boarded on a plane, 2 planes leaving Florida, leaving Texas, leaving Oklahoma. You ain't been hearing that, have you? Trying to explain to y'all how the new system is going to work. You heard about the visas, the HB1s and stuff like that. Forget about all that. It's now the work program. Everybody in ICE, as soon as he does what he wants to do and gets these facilities built, they're going to be free labor. We're not sending all these people back. Remember, we're $40 trillion in debt. Your tax going to pay for all that? It's government, right? Your tax dollars going to pay for all them flights? Cut the games. Prosecutors still accuse Mr. Maduro of participating in a drug trafficking conspiracy, but they abandoned the claim that Cartel de los Soles was an actual organization. Instead, the revised indictment states that it refers to a patronage system and a culture of corruption fueled by drug money. Wait a minute, I thought he was the head of a cartel. And see, this right here, this is from the court hearing where the state backtracked everything they said about Maduro being a cartel leader. Now they're just saying, oh, it's kind of a vibe, you know what I'm saying? More of a drug cartel vibe, Your Honor. Where the old indictment refers 32 times to Cartel de los Soles and describes Mr. Maduro as its leader. The new one mentions it twice and says that he, like his predecessor, President Hugo Chavez, who we kidnapped and brought back, participated in, perpetuated, and protected the patronage system. So the mere fact that they've taken out all that cartel stuff, because they obviously have no proof, and the mere fact that out of Trump's own mouth, he said he gonna sell to Russia and China once we get everything straightened out. So where are the crimes? Now, don't get me wrong, Maduro has committed crimes, but not crimes for another nation to come get him. I mean, this could have been worked out diplomatically. I'm not saying that Maduro's a good guy. What I'm saying is, once he gets it off with Maduro, he's going to get it off with Greenland. He's going to get it off with Cuba. He's going to get it off with Colombia. He's going to get it off with Brazil. And we're already in Africa setting up another coup. Trust and believe, as soon as Israel builds that base in Somaliland that they now said is a state, only Israel, because they're going to bring all the people from Gaza and put them there. And we're going to have another Gaza situation in Somaliland. The people are going to be revolting, and they're going to have, just like ICE, military all in the streets to control a certain area where they put all the Palestinians. Watch what I tell you. At some point, America's going to have to take up arms.